When you take full responsibility for your life and the results you want to receive, you will get better outcomes. Now, I'm not saying that you'll always win, but you will always get better. And that is what is under our power to control. See, full responsibility doesn't mean that everything that's happened in your life is your fault or was under your control, because that'll be untrue. There's so many factors that come into play, so many things outside of us that have influenced the results we have today. Nonetheless, we can control internal factors. See, there's two types of factors in life. There's external factors, which are things outside of us that we can't control. Things like what we do in the past. We can't control in the sense that we can't change those things we did in the past. I can't control the fact that I have dark skin or that I'm 6 foot. I can't control those things. Those are external factors that have contributed to the results I have. And the other factor is internal factors. Things like what thoughts we continue to think about, things like the choices we make, the actions we do, the behaviors we have. These are things that we can control. External factors contribute to our results, while internal factors determine what outcomes we receive. And the better we take control of these internal factors, the better outcomes we can get for ourselves. That's what we have to take full responsibility for controlling what we can control. So, what does this look like? What does full responsibility actually look like? Well, first is taking full responsibility for thoughts you have. Now, we can't control all the thoughts that come our way, which is pretty annoying. I don't know about you, but I hate when thoughts of lust or pride or anger, resentment just come into my mind. It makes me upset in my flesh. My flesh, it desires all these thoughts. It desires the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. It desires these things that are contrary to the will of God, contrary to what I want to think about. Nonetheless, they come in. So I can't necessarily control that, but what I can control is a few things. I can control the filters I take in, the filters of my eyes, the filter of my ears, what I look at, what I hear. By having better filters, I now have a different standard for myself. I now have a different way of thinking about the thoughts I have. But another thing we can do is we can trade out the thoughts we have that don't align with the purpose we want, the goals that we have for ourselves. So, for example, if a thought of lust comes in, I can think to myself, hey, this is not a thought that's profitable, and I can trade that out for a different thought, a thought that's more profitable, like, hey, I love myself, or hey, I love this person, or hey, something that is better, something that's more profitable towards my goal. I have to take full responsibility for that. Because if I don't, and I let all these negative thoughts come into my mind and flood my mind, well, guess what? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. My mouth is now going to proclaim all these bad thoughts. I'm now going to have all these bad intentions and motives, and it's going to come with laziness and lust and all these different actions that overflow out of the abundance of my heart, out of the abundance of the thoughts I have. If I don't take full responsibility for my thoughts, my actions will give me poor results over a period of time. So take responsibility for your thoughts, because your thoughts shape your actions. And by having better actions, you get better results. Second thing we need to take full responsibility for is our beliefs. A belief is what we consider as true. And the thing about beliefs is that you can believe whatever you want to believe without any evidence required. For example, I could believe there's a pink elephant in this room, and I can consider that as true, even though there's no evidence of it. I mean, that could even fit in this room. It's too small, right? But I can still consider it as true. And guess what? We live out the beliefs we hold. It's very hard to consistently act in a way that's inconsistent to the beliefs you have. So if I truly consider it as true that a pink elephant is in my room, well, that's going to change the way I behave. That's why it's so important to examine the way you think. Examine the beliefs you have. Because if you have beliefs that don't serve you, well, now you have actions that don't serve you. The most important beliefs to examine, to consider if they're true or not, are your foundational beliefs. They're the beliefs that everything else hangs on. For example, one foundational belief I have is that Jesus is Lord, that Christianity is true. That's a foundational belief because that shapes how I think in the rest of my life. Like it shapes the actions I take, the choices I make, who I marry, why I marry them, what I do. It shapes everything else. So I have to examine that belief. It would be smart to make sure what I think about that is true because it shapes everything else in life. In a certain way, your faith, what you believe about God, is a foundational belief that you have to make sure you examine to consider as true because that shapes everything else in your life. So those are beliefs we need to do. Foundational beliefs, religious beliefs, moral beliefs, those beliefs because that shapes everything else. So how should we go about examining these beliefs? How should we go about taking full responsibility for them? Well, we do this by looking at the other side. If I'm afraid to look at what an atheist says or what a Mormon says or what a Muslim says, if I'm afraid to look at what they believe and why they believe what they believe, and I just go blindly into Christianity, well, I'm not being smart. I have to examine the other side to consider if what I'm believing is the best belief. And when we examine the other side, we can now have a more unbiased viewpoint. And that's one thing I've done. I actually read the whole Quran. And I know a lot about different faiths, different beliefs. I know a lot about atheism and other Jehovah Witnesses and other beliefs because I looked into it. And that's how I now have such more confidence within my belief because I examined the other side. But that's why people lack confidence because they haven't examined their belief and they haven't examined other beliefs. They don't know why they believe what they believe and they can't even defend it, right? So look into your beliefs, examine them, and make sure you can defend them. Make sure you can give an account of why they are true, why you believe what you believe. And by taking full responsibility for that, it will shape the way you think and it will shape your actions and help you to produce better results, assuming your beliefs are solid. That leads to the third thing we need to take full responsibility for, and that is the actions we take. And our actions are just a product of what we think about and the beliefs we have. When those are solid, our actions inevitably will be solid. Nonetheless, we gotta take full responsibility for this, our choices that we make, what we choose to do. So how can we have good actions? Well, one way is by making sure to develop positive habits. A habit is something that we simply repeatedly do so much that it now is automatic. So when I have an action that's good and repeat it over and over again so that it becomes a habit, I now automatically do what is getting me a positive outcome. So take full responsibility for your actions by developing better habits and by getting rid of habits that don't serve you. And that includes habits of thinking and habits of what you believe. By changing this, you'll naturally have better habits within your actions. So take full responsibility for those three things and you'll get better results within your life. Your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys like this content, feel free to subscribe. I try to post a video every single day, post a longer form video every single week. Also, I wrote a whole chapter in this book about taking full responsibility. So if you want to learn more about how to do that, why it's so important, make sure to read this book. And the message in this book is if you control what you can control, you influence others to do the same. So when you take full responsibility for your life, you inspire others to also do that so they also can get great results. So if you want to read that, visit my website at austinmurray.com and you can get yourself a copy of this book on Amazon. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.